grateful that you are here with me today to celebrate the life of Patrick Blum. Patrick and I would sometimes come here for a long walk along the river. The last time being last December before Christmas, when we had a mulled wine. Patrick passed away on February the 15th at home after a long illness that he had bravely faced, and he was cremated on March the 7th at Kingston Crematorium. I was the only one present at the service. It was very sad, but I want to believe that he is now in a better place and he's no longer suffering. So today is a very special day to remember him. The mark that Patrick left on the people, the friends and the colleagues who knew him at so many stages of his long and extraordinary life, his achievements as a journalist, as a humanitarian, someone who cared about people, about social injustices, and participated in collective struggles. Anna has later read some short texts that some of his fellow journalists sent me from Portugal to be read today, because they themselves could not be present. Patrick was sensitive, romantic, somewhat bohemian, and hedonistic, rebellious man who knew how to make friends and fell in love easily, just like me. A bit like me, but also mostly like Anna. Our meeting was a happy one, I believe. Two similar souls who finally had belatedly found each other. Patrick married 4 times, and I married him for your 3rd time. Since he was a child, he had experienced many adventures. A boy born on the outskirts of Paris, the son of Robert Blum, an Austrian Jewish intellectual involved in the theatre, escaping Nazism, and the son of Suzanne, a French proletarian years younger than Robert. When Patrick's father died, he was still a boy. Something happened that changed his life. Adelbert, Patrick's half-brother on his father's side, appeared now an adult and director of a school for boys near Reading, on the outskirts of London. So Patrick came to study at this school at his brother's invitation, but he did not speak a word of English, so you can imagine how difficult it must have been for Patrick as a child. And his life always followed a bit like this. It was a mixture of challenges, courage and rebellion, because after a while Patrick, despite being studious and intelligent, deliberately got very low grades, in his end of year exams, so he could return to Paris to his working class life, family and friends, because his brother Adelbert had told him at some point that if he failed the exams, he would have to return to France. Patrick went through many periods and situations between trips to swinging London and returns to Paris a few times in his youth. There was even a time when he was a hairdresser at a very famous chain in Paris, frequented by people like Brigitte Bardot. According to him, in those turbulent and crazy years of the New Wave and the May 68, the 68 years.
Oui.
Until he finally settled down and went to university in England, to the delight of his brother Adelbert, who did not approve of his wandering life as a hairdresser, which he apparently enjoyed so much. Patrick studied English literature, then a master's in Latin American studies, both at Colchester, University of Essex. After he and his wife, at the time Elizabeth, spent time in Argentina between 74 and 75, which was a dangerous period before the dictatorship. He got his first job as a journalist at a prestigious business magazine called the Middle East Economic Digest, MEED, around 1976, when he and his second wife moved to London. Patrick then worked for Labour Weekly, the Labour Party newspaper, before getting a job at the Financial Times in Vienna around 1983. Patrick was a correspondent for the FT, Financial Times, in many European capitals, and also wrote for the iconic Herald Tribune and agencies such as Reuters, Bloomberg, etc. He wrote as a contributor. His articles were mostly about economics and finance, but he also wrote from Portugal about politics, sometimes about tourism and about wine, and the Douro, demarcated region and other regions, a place he loved very, very much, as did I. It was in Portugal that I met him. We were both members of the Foreign Press Association based in Lisbon. He is a correspondent and a collaborator for some of the media outlets mentioned above, and I am a photojournalist for the contributor to the Brazilian newspaper Folha de São Paulo.
Yes, Folha de São Paulo.
Thank you. As well as to some tourism, news and music magazines also from Brazil. The first time I saw Patrick at one of those informal meetings of the AIEP Foreign Press Association, he immediately caught my attention because he was a handsome man. He was a charming man, but mainly because he was holding the book Room with a View by E.M. Forster carelessly in one hand, and he noticed me too. We both separated from our spouses at the time to be together, and it was not at all easy. He wrote very romantic emails, exchanging poems by authors we liked, he in English and French, and I in some Brazilian and Portuguese, but not only. Music and cinema were also a strong bond between us. We had many references in common, and we found more and more in tune with each other. I don't know how to put into words everything we meant to each other during the almost 20 years that we were together.
Mm.
But we were officially married just over half a year ago. When he was already sick. Excuse me. They were very beautiful years of passion, companionship, complicity, lightness, but also with some problems and afflictions like any couple who lives together so intensely. I admired him, and I believed he admired me too. We fulfilled each other in many ways. I also gave him a family. We didn't have children together, and he really cared about my daughters and my son-in-law, and now his granddaughter Livia. Patrick showed me London, where I see him every day, and I go now, and it is my home and my city. Not that it is completely unraveled, but it was the London that he loved and that resonated completely in me. Today, I love it, especially Richmond. This is a very special place where we lived for more than 10 years. Patrick also, I couldn't help but mention, took care of me when I was very ill a few years ago, but I survived. He had many facets. He was funny in his own way, with a hybrid sense of humour between French and English, which sometimes reminded me of Monsieur Hulot, a French character from the unforgettable films, somewhere between the naive, somewhat comical and clumsy, but always sweet and generous character made by Jacques Tati in the films such as Mon Oncle, My Uncle, Les Vacances de Monsieur Hulot, Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, for those who don't speak French, which some of you may know.
But it's in English as well.
Every day, wherever I am, I remember him. The many moments we had together in Portugal, here, in Nice, in the south of France, where we lived for a year in 2012. His words, his gestures, his gaze, the way he felt and expressed beauty and indignation, in short, his passion for life. And this longing hurts a lot. But at the same time, thanks to life for having crossed our paths in such an intense and loving way, hoping that this pain will somehow transform into something lighter. I think this may be the way that Patrick continues to live on in each of us, the way he touched us and the way in the places he was loved and is loved. Today, some of us distributed some of his ashes in Richmond Park, and now Patrick will also be a part of those centuries-old trees, of the animals he loved so much that live there, of the nature that renews itself every year. He left in a cold and dark February, and today we are saying goodbye to him with this beautiful tribute, with all of you in the middle of spring. So thank you so very much for coming. Anna. Told you should have bloody read it.